Should the President of the United States attend an event sponsored by the family? For decades, the family's operated as a shadowy, secretive religious group which cultivates relationships with powerful people in Washington and around the world, but itself tries to stay out of the spotlight. Should the President of the United States still be planning on attending the family's prayer event? Joining us now is someone who thinks not. Melanie Sloan is the executive director of CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. CREW has sent a letter calling on the president and members of Congress to not attend the breakfast. Melanie, thanks very much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So what is your argument, in short, against the president not attending this?
That the president shouldn't give his imprimatur, the suggestion of legitimacy, to such a questionable organization that really has cult-like status and has been involved in tax problems, has been involved with unethical politicians. And this event, as your video showed, looks like it's somehow official. There are presidential seals and other indicia of that it's a government-sponsored event. And whenever high-level congressional officials and the president attend, you're basically giving it the imprimatur of the U.S. government. And this is an event, by the way, that the family uses for fundraising and networking.
They certainly don't teach anybody about the secret backroom deals, special interests, backstabbing, and all the rest of it that actually operate our so-called democracy. Joining us now, Melanie Sloan, Executive Director of CREW, the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. The group is very active in the fight against secret holds. What actually can be done? And is it now Senator DeMint's ball? In other words, is Senator DeMint the one who actually has to get this done, since he's the one who had the objection, apparently?
Well, I don't think Senator DeMint has any interest in getting it done. I think he wants to help make secret holds, the legislation to kill secret holds, die a death. I think there are a lot of senators who really like secret holds, but don't want to be seen as voting to uphold them.
The other big question, did someone else induce Greene to run or give him the money for the $10,000 ballot filing fee? Greene denies it.
You didn't get that money from anybody else?
No, I didn't.
If there are people engaged in shenanigans to undermine our elections, in fact, it undermines Americans' faith in our elected officials and in our democracy.
Fuhrer, who had previous arrests for drunk driving and possession of cocaine, pleaded guilty to 3 misdemeanors in connection with the assault. But Senator Vitter kept him on his staff after a 5-day suspension without pay and continued to use him as his point person on women's issues. It raised the question for many in Washington of why.
Mr. Fuhrer beat up his girlfriend so badly that she required stitches and reported the matter to the police. And yet despite that, despite the fact that David Vitter's office knew about Mr. Fuhrer's conduct, he was kept on staff. And this is despite the fact that Mr. Vitter has come out against domestic violence, portraying himself as someone who takes that kind of crime seriously. This suggests he does not.
The New York Post first ran this photo of Rangel lounging there, and it became a symbol of the allegations against him.
What it really looks like is a pattern of arrogance, as if the rules just didn't apply to Mr. Rangel. But it's got to be more than minor infractions for the committee to announce this public hearing.
Maxine Waters is accused of intervening to seek help for a bank on whose board her husband served and in which her family had a financial interest. One ethics group say the facts leave no doubt about what happened.
House rules clearly prohibit members of Congress from getting involved in matters in which they have a financial interest. And she knew at the time that this was a conflict of interest. She recognized in speaking with him that it would look bad, that there was a conflict because of her husband's interest in the bank.
Melanie, is it okay for her to write a letter and ask that the money from this foundation, from this charity, not go to the school, which I think is what it's supposed to, but to go directly to her grandkids?
No, it's clearly not okay, and I don't believe for a second she didn't know. She obviously directed staff to prepare the letter to the foundation to say that the money should go directly to her grandchildren. So for her to feign a lack of knowledge at this point is really hard to fathom. I think ethics is an issue of right and wrong, not black and white.
I've never seen a candidate who just stole all their campaign money and used it for personal use. What it seems like here is Christine O'Donnell had no other way to support herself, so she thought, okay, I'll run for U.S. Senate.
The nonpartisan watchdog group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, is urging the U.S. Attorney in Delaware to open a criminal investigation.
It's not sloppiness, it's out-and-out theft.
And the implication is that you have partisan reasons for getting after her. Plenty of her supporters are going to say, look, you know, I don't want to use the term witch hunt because now it would be a pun, but that basically you have an agenda that you're going after her.
Crew's track record is clear. We're a nonpartisan organization, and we take folks on all sides of the aisle. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter. We've come down just as hard on Nathan Deal of Georgia, now running for governor, as Greg Meeks, a congressman in New York, Democrat. Charlie Rangel, Maxine Waters, two other Democrats we've targeted recently, John Ensign, another Republican. So Crew just is looking for politicians to be honest and have integrity, and Christine O'Donnell sadly just does not exemplify those values.